I've been a paramedic for 12 years, seen everything: car crashes, heart attacks, even delivered a baby once on a highway shoulder. Nothing prepared me for what went down at Willow Grove Estates. A 76-year-old woman, Eleanor Thompson, was dying of a heart attack, and I was yards away from saving her when an HOA guard tasered me for trespassing. She didn't make it. Now the whole board is facing a wrongful death lawsuit. This is the story of how a quiet neighborhood became a battleground for bureaucracy. The morning started like any other for Sarah Mitchell, a 38-year-old paramedic with a no-nonsense attitude and a gift for staying cool under pressure. She'd been on the job over a decade, working out of County General's EMS station in a suburban town near Atlanta. Her shift was already grueling: 12 hours of back-to-back calls, from a kid with a fractured arm to an old man who'd tumbled down his stairs. She was nursing lukewarm coffee in the ambulance bay, joking with her partner, Jake, about earning a quiet end to the day when the radio crackled. Unit 14, 911 at Willow Grove Estates, Unit 117. Female 76, possible cardiac arrest. Caller says she's turning blue. Priority 1. Sarah's stomach nodded. Cardiac arrests were a race against time. Every second counted. She and Jake grabbed their gear, jumped into the ambulance, and roared out, sirens screaming. Willow Grove was a gated community 10 minutes away, known for manicured lawns, retirees with tiny dogs, and an HOA obsessed with things like fence heights. Sarah had been there before for minor chest pain, falls, but never had issues getting in. Until today. The ambulance screeched to a halt at the community stone gate, a fancy setup with a sign proclaiming Willow Grove Estates, a secure retreat. Jake hit the call button, expecting the gate to swing open. Nothing. He jabbed it again, harder. EMS, we've got a cardiac arrest. Open the gate now. A gruff voice crackled back. State your clearance code. Jake blinked, then glanced at Sarah. Clearance code? We're paramedics. Open the damn gate. The voice returned, colder. No code, no entry. HOA rules. Sarah didn't wait. She grabbed her med bag, slung it over her shoulder, and leapt out. I'm going in on foot. Call the watch commander for access. Jake nodded, already on the radio, as Sarah sprinted toward the pedestrian gate nearby. She could see Unit 117 just past the neat two-story with a faded wreath on the door. Her heart pounded, not from running but from the ticking clock. A cardiac arrest patient had a 10-fan transfer val chance if CPR didn't start within 4 minutes. They were at minute 3. She reached the metal pedestrian gate, a keypad and scanner setup. A man stood on the other side, mid-40s, stocky, in a black vest labeled HOA security. His name tag read Carlson. He held a taser in one hand, the other on a walkie-talkie clipped to his belt. Sarah flashed her EMS badge, voice urgent but professional. I'm a paramedic. Heart attack patient in Unit 117. Let me through now. Carlson's face didn't budge. He eyed her badge, her uniform's red paramedic patch, the flashing ambulance behind her. No clearance, he said, flat, like he was reciting a manual. No one enters without a gate code or pass. Sarah's jaw dropped. Are you serious? A woman's dying in there. I don't have time for this. Call your boss or let me through. Carlson stepped closer, hand tightening on the taser. I'm the supervisor on duty. No pass, no entry. Call your own boss if you've got a problem. Sarah pointed to her ID, voice rising. I'm EMS. This is life or death. Move or I'm coming through. Before she could step forward, Carlson raised the taser, aimed at her torso, and fired. The electric crackle cut through the morning air, a sound that would haunt Sarah for months. Voltage ripped through her, dropping her to her knees on the pristine grass. Her med bag hit the ground, spilling bandages and a stethoscope. Her body convulsed, lungs gasping, tears welling involuntarily. She tried to scream, but only a choked gasp came out. Carlson stood over her, taser in hand, his face a mix of defiance and doubt. You were warned, he muttered, as if that justified it all. Inside Unit 117, Eleanor Thompson, 76, lay on her leave-wying room floor. Her husband, Harold, knelt beside her, hands trembling as he tried to recall CPR from a class years ago. Stay with me, Ellie, he whispered, voice breaking. They're coming, I swear. But they weren't. Eleanor's lips were blue, her chest still. She'd had chest pain for days, but that morning it hit like a truck. Harold called 911 when she collapsed, his voice frantic as he begged for help. Now minutes later, he heard the siren outside but saw no one at the door. Jake, still in the ambulance, got through to the watch commander, who promised to override the gate. Too late. By the time it creaked open and Jake dragged Sarah to her feet, Eleanor's heart had stopped for good. They reached the house 8 minutes after the 911 call double the survival window. Sarah, shaking from the taser, pushed through the pain to start CPR, but she knew it was futile. Eleanor was gone. The county medical examiner arrived 20 minutes later, pronouncing her dead and zipping her into a body bag as Harold sobbed in the corner. Word spread through Willow Grove like wildfire. This was a place where fights usually involved petty stuff. Simone's hedge too tall, a car parked wrong. Now a woman was dead because a paramedic got tasered for trying to save her. Neighbors gathered on porches, whispering in shock. A grainy cell phone video from a resident's porch camera surfaced online, showing Sarah's pleas, Carlson's refusal, and the taser's crackle. It went viral, racking up thousands of views and comments like, "This is madness, shut down that HOA." Carlson told investigators he was just following protocol. "We've had break-ins," he said, defensive. "I was protecting the residents." But how could a uniformed paramedic with an ambulance in plain sight be a threat? The outrage grew and local news plastered headlines like, "HOA guard tasers paramedic, patient dies." The Willow Grove HOA board, who'd hired Carlson and set the rigid security rules, faced a PR nightmare and a looming lawsuit. Harold Thompson, Eleanor's husband of 50 years, was shattered. That night, he stared at a photo of her from their wedding, her smile radiant. They'd moved to Willow Grove for a peaceful retirement, morning walks, porch evenings. Now that was gone, replaced by crushing grief. But beneath it, anger burned. "They killed her," he whispered. "Their damn rules killed my Ellie." By week's end, Harold hired attorney Laura Bennett and sued the entire HOA board for wrongful death. Willow Grove, once a postcard-perfect community, was now ground zero for a legal fight that would change it forever. 10 years ago, Willow Grove was a typical suburb, retirees with dogs, kids on bikes, neighbors chatting over fences. The HOA was a formality run by volunteers who planned barbecues and nudged people about lawn care. That changed after petty crimes rattled the neighborhood. Teens tagged a gazebo, a model home got burglarized, mailboxes were smashed. Minor, but it spooked the HOA board, especially President Edward Ramsey. A 68-year-old retiree with a scar from a long-ago mugging, Edward was paranoid about safety. Growing up in a tough Chicago neighborhood taught him to trust no one. Willow Grove was his sanctuary, but the crimes revived old fears. Edward pushed the board to act. They ditched volunteer security for a private contractor, installed scanner gates, added cameras everywhere, and hired guards to patrol. HOA fees spiked from $200 to $800 a year. Residents grumbled but bought the safety pitch, keeping out bad elements. The measures turned Willow Grove into a fortress. Visitors needed codes or guard clearance. Delivery drivers often left packages at the gate when approval lagged. Residents got key fobs. Anyone without one, like a spontaneous guest, was turned away. Edward justified it at meetings, voice firm, "We're protecting our way of life." Most nodded despite the hassle, not realizing how far it would go. Carlson was the perfect enforcer for this regime. A former mall cop with a chip on his shoulder, he was hired for his rule-following zeal. At 45, he'd never seen real action but acted like a soldier, vest crisp, taser charged. He saw the gate as a battle line, every sighter a potential threat. He once bragged about turning away a pizza guy for lacking a resident's name. "Rules are rules," he smirked. That mindset made him the worst person to be on duty when Sarah arrived. The day after Eleanor's death, Willow Grove was chaos. Neighbors whispered about the viral Deo. Some defended Carlson. "We've had break-ins," said 70-year-old Martha. Maybe he thought she was fake. Most were horrified. "Fake paramedic? With an ambulance there?" retorted Tom, a retired teacher. "That's absurd." The DVY grew, splitting neighbors who'd once been friends. Sarah, arm in a sling from the taser's nerve damage, sat in the ambulance bay, replaying the moment. She'd saved countless lives in 12 years, and now a power-tripping guard had sidelined her. Her supervisor put her on light duty, but she burned to return. "I can't let this stop me," she told Jake, voice firm despite the pain. Jake carried his own guilt. Stuck in the ambulance on the radio, he hadn't been there when Sarah was tasered. I should have jumped out sooner, he said. Maybe ran the gate. Sarah shook her head. You did your job. This is on them. They cited Harold that evening to offer condolences. He greeted them with a handshake, eyes red. She was my everything, he said, voice breaking. 50 years gone over a gate code. He showed them old HOA letters, fee hikes, security memos, even a warning for a misplaced trash can. Ellie always said we gave them too much power, he said, resolute. She was right. Harold's attorney, Laura Bennett, saw the case as a slam dunk. Known for winning wrongful death suits, she told him, this isn't just one guard. It's a system valuing rules over lives. We're going after the board. The board, meanwhile, met in their La VYSH clubhouse, overlooking tennis courts and a man-made lake. Edward Ramsey sat at the head, scar twitching as members argued. Some wanted to blame Carlson, calling his actions a fluke. Others feared personal liability. We never told him to taser anyone, said Susan, a retired accountant. But we hired him, countered Richard, a former lawyer. We set the rules. Outside, reporters camped, bombarding residents with questions. Did you know about these rules? Is the board to blame? Most muttered no comment and fled. The tension was thick. Willow Grove, once a suburban dream, was now a lightning rod. The lawsuit hit like a tidal wave. Harold, with Laura by his side, sued every board member, alleging their militarized vigilance caused Eleanor's death. The suit sought $5 million plus punitive damages. Laura knew it would resonate. A beloved grandmother, a heroic paramedic, versus a board of out-of-touch bureaucrats. The board distanced themselves from Carlson, issuing a statement calling his actions an unfortunate misinterpretation. They suspended him with pay, but residents weren't appeased. Comments flooded their portal. You hired him. Those rules are insane. What if it's my family next? Sarah, on light duty, fought lingering nerve pain in therapy. Nightmares woke her. Carlson's unyielding eyes, treating her like a criminal. She started counseling but stayed focused. I'm a paramedic, she told her therapist. This won't define me. Jake, drowning in guilt, worked extra shifts to cope. When they gave statements for the lawsuit, Laura listened intently, pen flying. Sarah detailed the 911 call, the gate standoff, begging Carlson as he ignored her badge. I told him we had a cardiac arrest, she said, angry. He didn't care. Jake described finding her on the ground, too late for Eleanor. Laura leaned back. This is strong. You're credible, and the VYDO backs you. They'll pay. Willow Grove fractured. Some residents rallied behind Harold, starting a Save Our Community petition for the board's resignation. We wanted peace, not a police state, said Linda, 60, at a meeting. Others defended the rules. Break-ins happen, said Ed, a retired cop. You can't let just anyone in. The board unraveled internally. Edward fielded angry calls, what if it was my wife, and his assurances rang hollow. He'd built this fortress, but it was crumbling. A rumor surfaced. The security firm might not have been licensed for tasers. A resident found no permit records, sparking fury. They armed him without a license? Linda said, shaking. The board scrambled to verify, but the damage was done. Potential regulatory penalties piled onto the lawsuit. Picket signs sprouted on lawns. HOA reform now, paramedics, not paperwork, justice for Eleanor. The community was no longer a haven, it was a war zone. The trial began 6 months later in a packed courtroom. Harold, Laura, and Sarah, who wore her paramedic uniform, faced the board, somber in suits. Residents watched, most VY Live News. Laura opened VY delay, detailing Eleanor's final moments, Harold's desperate call, Sarah's heroism stopped by a taser. This wasn't random, she said. It was a system valuing rules over lives. The jury, young professionals, retirees, listened, shocked. Sarah testified calmly, recounting showing Carlson her badge, begging as he tasered her. I told him there was no time, she said, meeting jurors' eyes. He didn't care. Jake choked up, describing finding Sarah and failing Eleanor. We trained to save lives, he said. But we were stopped at a gate. Experts explained cardiac arrest timing. Eleanor's 40 Fantram serve VY Val chance dropped to 0. Carlson, in a cheap suit, looked small. I followed protocol, he stammered. No exceptions, even for EMS. Laura tore in. You saw an ambulance and thought she was a threat? He mumbled, I followed orders. Edward Ramsey defended the security. We had break-ins, he said, scar twitching. Laura pressed. Did you consider EMS access? He squirmed. Guards were supposed to verify. And you hired Carlson, gave him a taser, and demanded rigid enforcement? Edwards, we expected common sense sounded weak. The defense blamed Carlson, but Laura countered. This was your militarized mentality. You made paramedics threats. The jury deliberated 2 days. Protesters outside held signs, "Justice for Eleanor." The verdict came Tuesday. We fined for Harold Thompson. The Willow Grove HOA is liable for wrongful death through negligence. Gasps filled the room. They awarded Dula $4 million, crippling the HOA. Harold closed his eyes, bittersweet relief washing over him. The board sat frozen pale. Edward stared down. Built this to feel safe, and it cost everything. The aftermath was swift. Facing financial ruin, the HOA considered dissolving. Security was dismantled, guards gone, scanners removed. Residents pushed for a human-focused system. Edward resigned. Several board members fled. Apologies came, but scars lingered. A new board, led by Linda and Tom, opened gates for EMS and set up direct lines to first responders. No more codes, Linda said. Ambulances get in. Martha, once a Carlson defender, started a neighborhood watch with police, focusing on real threats. We forgot to care for each other, she said. Sarah returned to work a month later, arm sore but spirit intact. EMS honored her for courage. We shouldn't fight bureaucracy to save lives, she told the crowd. She and Jake grew closer, their bond forged in trauma. We've got each other, Jake said. Always. Harold, swamped with media, wanted only to honor Eleanor. He funded a paramedic scholarship in her name. She'd want this, he told reporters, voice thick. Don't let rules trump sense. The case sparked change nationwide. HAs reviewed policies. Lawmakers proposed EMS access laws. Justice for Eleanor became a reform cry. Willow Grove healed slowly. Neighbors talked again. Gates stayed open, a community reborn. Harold kept Eleanor's photo close, whispering, I miss you, but your story matters. The gates remained, but their cracks show Ida lesson learned the hard way. Safety without humanity kills, but compassion rebuilds what fear destroys.